I am Vinnie Tortorich. Folks, your good intentions have been stolen, but don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent at the beginning of this process, but hang in there. Before long, you will be lean and mean, guaranteed. When you hear Deborah Harry, it only means one thing and one thing only. It means it's the Friday show, and it means it's a call-in show. So we're going to do that today. We're going to be taking calls. But before we take calls, let me introduce you to my good friend and co-host on the Wednesday show, an all-around good guy, Chris Shaffer. Yeah. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty well, man. Thunderous applause, a nice, admittedly undeserved intro. I'll take it.
Chris, I know we had a meeting earlier today. Can I talk a little bit about the meeting?
Yeah. So,
we got so much going on over here all the time that we try to keep up. We try to stay ahead. And one of the things that I'm so busy and Chris is so busy that we literally can't get our social media stuff up, meaning the stuff on X, Instagram I haven't done in months because, Instagram doesn't play fair. So why should I even try over there? And so we decided to hire someone. Now, here's the deal. I didn't hire someone to do my social media like the guy from what was his name? The Liver King, right? That guy hired a group to say, hey, I'm a charlatan. You make me a bigger charlatan so that the whole world will think I'm selling it. That's not what we're talking about here, right? What we're talking about is I write all the stuff. Chris writes all the stuff with me. We come up with all the stuff, and then we just hand it off to the social media people to put up when we tell them to put it up. Am I saying that correctly, Chris?
Yeah, it's literally just we don't have the time to sit there and post it. And I know we can schedule it. Some things you can't, like Twitter threads and some of those kinds of things, right? But we need somebody that can come back to us and say, hey, here's what's working, here's what's not. And then you and I can sit down and brainstorm and come up with the content. We just don't have the time to literally click publish on it.
Right. And I refuse to let anyone else put words in my mouth. That's, I learned that early on, long before I knew who Chris was. Chris, I don't know if you know this story, but I had an assistant right when I got really busy, around 2013 or so. Wendy was her name. And Serena kept saying, you're not utilizing Wendy enough or at all. And I was like, yeah, it was your idea to get me an assistant. I don't know what to do with an assistant. I don't know what that is. And she goes, let her do things for you. So I decided one day, it was back when I still used to do a lot of cycling and all that kind of stuff. One day I was on my spinner and it came to my attention that there was something called an American Doll. You remember this? It was like very popular with girls, kids.
The American Girl dolls?
Yeah, that was it.
They're like $200 and like $50 for clothing. Super expensive Barbie.
I didn't know that. I just knew that. And American Girl Doll had just created a thing, which I thought was a cool idea, in order to make all kids feel inclusive, kids with medical issues. And I think, they were doing a thing for kids with type 1 diabetes, right? So those kids don't feel like they have some kind of affliction, right? It was, hey, the American Girl doll with the insulin pump and the this and the that. And I went, man, that's a really cool idea. So I wanted to do a thing on Twitter where I said, hey, American Girl, that's a great idea. I love what you're doing there. You're including all kids. How about we do one, since you guys have such influence? That's when I learned about American Girl dolls, because they had this incredible influence. They're putting out this incredible product for type 1 kids. How about we do one where the American Girl doll has, I don't know, like little hand weights or a jump rope, so we can let kids know that fitness is a cool thing. So while I'm on my bike, my assistant is in my office because, as you know, my bike is in my office. And I said, Wendy, let's show some praise to American Girl doll, and then put up a thing saying, with it, let's do this also. Well, that's not what happened. Wendy says, got it, boss. I'll put it up. Well, I finished my thing. Wendy went home for the day and she put it up. And Serena and I got off my bike and I took a shower, and it was a Friday or Saturday night. We went out for dinner. We're still living in California. We came home and my Twitter was lit up. And when I say lit up, I mean lit the F up. People calling for my head. This is the early days of doxing. Find out where this guy lives. He doesn't deserve to live. We got to get. I was like, what did I do? What happened between all the goodwill all day long and now? Right? And it was what Wendy put up. It was the tweet Wendy put up. And I get it. When I read the tweet, I went, oh God. Oh God. It made it look like I was saying that, hey, type 1 diabetes, type 1, the one you cannot control, is your fault. And if your kids were jumping rope and doing exercise, they wouldn't have gotten it. That's what it sounded like. I stayed up from the time we got home from dinner, which was about 10 p.m., until 7 o'clock the next morning, trying to calm down the parents of type 1 kids who they were going, he's got a vitamin company, boycott his vitamins, boycott everything, boycott this guy, go for his head. We see he lives in Woodland Hills. I was like, I was being doxxed and canceled and everything over something I didn't say. And I kept saying, I kept writing to him all night going, listen, I'm so sorry. I know what this looks like. This is what happened. Of course, you're going to say that now that you've been caught and had. And enough people were coming to my rescue going, no, I think you got this guy wrong. He's not that guy. It just went on and on and on until what I did was I found the two people, and they weren't related to each other. They were across the country from each other, who was leading the charge. And I wrote to them privately. And I said, guys, I know it doesn't look this way, but what I'm offering to you guys is let's turn this into a moment where people can learn the difference between type 1 and what you guys do and type 2 diabetes, which, by the way, I'm not quite sure they should be calling type 2 because it shouldn't be linked in with type 1, right? Because it's two different issues completely. And I said, let's use this as I have a huge following online. I have a huge podcast. Go check it out. Why don't you guys come on and I can let the world know about you guys and what you're doing? And they said, okay. And we did a podcast. We did a whole podcast on it. And it turned out okay that these people were willing to come on and let me apologize to them on the air and let them explain to the world what they deal with as parents. And then, as people know, I even had in my first documentary, Fat, I had a whole section on type 1 diabetes and children, where I had Mackenzie on, right? The Mackenzies, the husband and the wife, because it does matter. It does really matter. But here we are in 2025 trying again. But the one thing I told these women, nothing goes out until I sign off on it. We can't have this happen again. Chris?
So I'm over here. I found the tweet.
What was the actual? I can't believe you were able to find that tweet. I've tweeted about 200,000 times.
So I didn't find it on your Twitter because I figured that would be exactly the problem that you were just alluding to.
Right.
But I found a blog post about it.
Yeah. What year was it?
December 29th, 2015.
Oh, it was 2015.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And the tweet, do you want me to read it?
Yeah. Was it pretty close to what I said? Because I can't even remember what it said.
Yeah, it just says, is there an American Girl doll that comes with running shoes, jump rope, and a bicycle? A tree to climb? Hashtag WTF.
Okay. Yeah. You see, I think it was the WTF that got him.
But the interesting thing is in the replies, right? A lot of the replies are, yeah, it's mind-boggling that it comes with the ability to manage diabetes, but no lifestyle tools. And I think it's really the replies that caught you out there, right? Because your intention there is not to say that you don't understand what type 1 diabetes is, which is hilariously the point of the blog post.
Right.
It's to say, look, this is fine. It's nice that this is type 1 diabetes for $17, by the way, on their website. Vinnie, they can get a plastic little diabetes kit with a couple stickers on it.
Right.
It was to say, look, we need to be talking about lifestyle stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
They now have, by the way.
Say again?
Which they now have. They have some, let's see, there's tennis court, a skate park, looks like a handful of small fitness things that go along with the American Girl dolls, gymnastics equipment, some of that kind of stuff. I think I saw some weights.
As long as they don't have a pickleball paddle, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pickleball is how you get real bloody real fast. At least that's been my experience.
Yeah. Well, that's how I'll suss people out. Find out if they play pickleball.
Whether or not they play pickleball.
But yeah, I can't believe I just started talking about that. You were able to go and still find that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I guess the internet never goes away. But yeah, we turned it into a positive moment with type 1, right? But it's amazing how quickly something can just go right off the page. Boom, done. And here we are. Here we are. Chris, I'm going to do a quick ad, and then we're going to bring Eric in. Folks, purevitaminclub.com. We're not just back, but we're back in a big way. Chris was just telling me, remember during the days, Chris, when we were getting 15 or 20 people a day going, where are my vitamins? What the F? You guys suck. And I made it my mission. You made it your mission. We made it a mission statement to do better, right? I had to do some firing, a lot of firing. Had to fire my best friend who won't talk to me anymore. I still love the guy. The guy won't talk to me. But I needed this company to be run right. Chris and I took over. Chris, in the last 3 days, how many tickets came in?
3.
That's, man, let me do the math. 3 tickets in 3 days, carry to 1. That's like 1 ticket a day. When you're shipping out tens of thousands of products per day, an average of 1 ticket a day might as well be 0. Chris, what were those tickets for? Can you tell me? Were they for something really egregious, or what were they?
No, somebody wanted to add something to one of their subscriptions. Somebody wanted to find something, and somebody hadn't seen their tracking information yet.
Oh, was that the one that sent it through on the tracking information?
Yep.
Yeah. They didn't find their tracking information. They replied to us with their traffic information. That's the big problems we're having now at purevitaminclub.com. What I'm trying to tell you folks is we fix the problem and we make it our daily work to continue to serve you guys at the utmost. And here's the other part of it, and probably the biggest part of it. you're not just getting average vitamins. And look, I know you could go buy these super expensive things from, all these big companies and the whole thing. They don't match us. Not even companies like Pure Encapsulation and Thorne. And I go look at their products. They're not even getting close. We're the only companies that will never use an excipient or a flow agent or any kind of magnesium stearate or which is a flow agent, or titanium dioxide. We have a product right now. If you look at it, it doesn't fill up the whole capsule. We got exactly the right amount of product in a capsule. And they said, hey, Chief, would you like us to fill the rest up with sand? That's right. That's what most companies do. If there's any room left in a capsule, you're not getting more of the good stuff. You're getting sand. That's what they do. I wish I was lying, folks. PureVitaminClub.com, the purest vitamins on the planet. Go to PureVitaminClub.com right now and get your products. And Bob's your uncle. You're going to love it. PureVitaminClub.com. Go there now. Chris, who do we have waiting for us?
Well, like you said, Vinny, it is a Friday call-in show. And as much as I think you and I would both like to just sit here and wax whimsically about overpriced dolls, we do have some callers on the line with us. And I think our buddy Eric is in the back room here. Eric, give me that thumbs up in the camera if you're ready to come on in. There he is. Hey, man.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good, Eric. How are you?
Not too bad, Vinny. Great to have the opportunity to talk with you and Chris today.
Well, obviously, it's more of an opportunity to talk to me. Chris is just, Chris.
Yeah, I know he's the behind-the-scenes guy, but they're the best part of companies too. So.
He's the behind-the-scenes guy that somehow made himself, part of the scene. And I got to be honest, man. When I was having all the trouble in the world, if it wasn't for Chris, and we'll give a shout out to his partner Joel, his business partner Joel. Those two guys, there was a lot of hand holding. They helped a lot, and we couldn't have done it without them. Bottom line, we talk about Chris, we never talk about Joel, but shout out to Joe, man. Those guys did an amazing thing. So tell us about yourself, Eric.
Well, Vinny, I'll say that just real quick. I just turned 50 on Sunday. Health-wise, feeling probably the best I've had in, I don't know, quite some time. I was an athlete through high school, played football, basketball, but then once you leave the sports to where you're either lifting or running around the court or out on the field, pretty much everything else falls apart. So I slowly saw myself gaining the weight. I peaked out. I've heard some of the people you've had on definitely were probably much heavier than me, but I was right around 225. But at 6'2", I was just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And amazingly, my wife of close to 25 years is, she put up with, this individual that just had a little bit of much around him. And so, all was good, had 4 kids, and, then just continued to have that uncomfortable feeling. And, as well as just seeing, I need to stick around as long as possible, like yourself and what you went through. And so that's when I just started exploring. And at the same time, I had, of all things, I went to a batting cage, to impress my now wife, girlfriend at the time. And as soon as I did a few swings, I did feel something a little funny in my lower back. And I just dealt with it for the longest time. And there was many days where I couldn't get off the floor, dealing with the pain and, going through a few CAT scans and seeing what it's all about, what I had to take care of. So ended up in 2019, decided I'm going to get that surgery and get some of my lower spine fused. But ahead of that, I saw the need just to get in better shape. And that's when, I came across Sean Baker and the carnivore, and jumped on that. Did that for some time. I saw that sudden drop in the weight, felt really good, but then, realized I just can't maintain it. I don't mind. I love eating meat. I love the protein, but it's just not something I could maintain. And so from there, really was you just kept exploring further to see, is it some piece of this carnivore diet thing that I can do, and continue with. But then eventually, I'm a big fan of Mike Rowe, and happened to hear you speaking with Mike about NSNG, and I feel that's where, ever since following you and reading your story, jumped onto this way of eating, and ever since then I've been able to maintain a nice weight, starting to build more muscle, and I'm looking forward to your release of your exercises. So I'm anticipating when those get released, because I'm interested in changing things up, because I started with a lot of body weight, but now I'm adding more actual weight, instead of doing what JT has out on YouTube. So
Yeah, and by the way, Chris, can I do a little? Can you take a note for me? Because my phone's not here, I can't send you the message. Remind me right when this podcast, when we go cold, just remind me to contact Mark Garagos.
Okay.
Eric said something that reminded me. Oh wait, I need to call Garagos. Don't worry, folks. I'm not in any kind of legal trouble. Mark's a friend. And I just remembered that I need to call him.
That's what they all say.
I'm not a celebrity like the ones Garagos had. I'm not Michael Jackson, that's for sure. Yeah, the workouts are coming. I know we've been saying it for a long time. Believe it or not, they've been in the can since February or March, Chris. How long ago did I put them together and put them all in? When I say in the can, all the shooting was done. Was it February or the first couple of days of March?
I think it was the last week of February.
Yeah. I had it in the can. That's the tough part, getting it all filmed. Right. Sure. And then I put together, I didn't put together, I already had the workouts put together. So then I worked with the editor to get that done. And I've been working on perfecting it since the end of March. And here we are going into football season again. The Super Bowl had not happened when I shot the film. And now we just had the first week, we're recording this on what, the 9th? 9/9. Yeah, we just had the first week of football go by.
Which by the way, Vinny, I got the supposedly final round of the 2-day back today.
Oh, good. We'll be going through that too. So after you remind me about Garagos, remind me to go through that.
So I do have a question for you, Vinny.
Sure.
So my wife and I went to see a functional medicine practitioner just to see what else we need to add. And, that led to a round of blood tests. And the one thing that, kind of piqued my interest was my cholesterol being a bit high, going from a 200, up to a 300 between two tests. And this was, December 24 to recently in July. And so my family doctor got a hold of that, and right away he wants to throw me on a statin.
Of course he does.
And so, I was, I'm the type of guy that, I don't enjoy conflict. And so I wasn't necessarily throwing any balls back at him when he was, about ready to knock me out with his message.
Right.
But so this is leading me to then getting a test done where they put the contrast fluid through to see your heart.
Yeah.
So it did come up with, a very low amount of blockage. And they said the flow is fine. But of course, then my doctor gets a hold of that and he's like, you must be taking this. You must be taking an aspirin every day. You must start taking a statin. And so now I'm going to be seeing I'm going to butcher this, but just to see if I'm going to go see another doctor to see if this is either hereditary. Is it in my family? So my question for you, ultimately, after all that, is just your thoughts on, when it comes down to, okay, what if? Because I know my father had it. I had an uncle that passed away right around my age, just suddenly. So, then that's in the back of my head. And so,
well, all right, let's look at your uncle and your cousin. Were they healthy?
So, my uncle, yeah, I would say he's relatively fit from what I can recall. I was pretty young when he passed away, but, he was an athlete. He was a Vietnam vet. So took care of himself from what I know. So, but at the time, who knows? I don't know what he was eating or what.
He was in Vietnam. Did he smoke? Was he a drinker? Those are the things you have to look at. A lot of people back in the 60s and 70s just routinely smoked, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if he did or not. I mean, those are the questions you need to ask, not whether, hey, my uncle who was in Nam, I mean, every time you see a picture of them, they got their helmet on with the Lucky Strike stuck in the helmet,
Sure.
the pack, right? So it can stay dry when they're going through the muck.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know what happened to him, number one. So that's not an indication on whether you're going to get heart disease or not. Right from the get-go. I spoke to a doctor. He wasn't on the show, but I spoke to a doctor, and I had 2 or 3 other doctors confirm this for me. They were like, we used to see cholesterol of 350. That wasn't, no one thought that was a problem. I mean, that was normal back in the day before they started scaring anyone, back in the 60s and 70s, when way less people had heart disease. That was the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I've talked to doctors who have said to me, there are people walking around with cholesterol levels of 500 and 600, and they will never die of heart disease. Right. So you can't look at a total number and go, oh my God, you must be on a statin. That goes to my theory of, why don't you just put a cast on both of your arms just in case you break them? They're already,
exactly.
You have a cast on them, That's what you're doing. You're putting a cast on something that's not broken. Now, all of that being said, I think you need, and you did the right thing. You got the contrast test. They saw normal flow. Now, did a cardiologist look at this, or your GP?
Just the general. Well, I mean, when you look at the results, he looked at, my general doctor looked at it, as well as, no, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just recalling. I've had a cardiologist look at it.
All right. So that's like having, let me put you have an automotive shop, right? And you hire a guy that's not a mechanic just to, take lugs off of the wheels and put them back on. Would you let that guy do an engine diagnostic test? Hell no. He's not a certified mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
He's just the guy he's the grease monkey. You just have the guy putting the, he's the guy that works for you. He's not a mechanic. He's doing the grunt work. He's putting tires on and off the car, right? He's the gopher. He's grabbing stuff. You want advice from that guy? Because that's what a GP is. He's not a heart guy. So the next question is, you go to a heart guy. And then when you get to the heart guy, you got to go, okay, are you looking at small dense particles? What's my ApoA, my ApoB? Did you guys even do that test? And if they have not, again, you're putting a cast on an arm that ain't broken, right? People look at doctors and go, oh, doctor said, right? Doctors are not God. They're fallible, just like the rest of us, right? Look, when I was going through cancer, and I've told the story before, but I'll tell it again because it fits here. I went through the same cancer back in 2007. 17 years later, I'm on the same chemotherapy, except they wanted me to take 2 antibiotics. And I even said to the doctor, hey, last time they didn't give me these antibiotics. Why am I taking this? It's like, oh, it's a precautionary because you're so, with this drug in your weakened state, you're so susceptible to infection that we now give these 2 antibiotics prophylactically. So dutifully, I started taking them. By day 3, I was covered in hives. And I'm talking my scalp, my face, my whole body. The only thing that didn't have hives was the palms of my hands and the bottom of my feet. I had swollen up like you wouldn't believe. I had a reaction to the drug. I called the nurse practitioner and I said, listen, I'm having this horrible reaction. Okay, we're going to give you the steroid. The what's that steroid they give people? Chris, help me out. The one they give people for anti-inflammatory shit. Cortisone. We're going to give you cortisone to count. Don't stop taking those drugs, and we're going to give you cortisone. So they give me a big dose of cortisone. It makes a little bit of the rash go away, but I'm still covered in rash from head to toe. And now I'm itching, and I can't sleep at night because they got me so jacked up on cortisone. So the next day I called the nurse practitioner again, and I said, listen, the biggest part of dealing with chemo is getting rest. I was bouncing off the walls last night. I'm so miserable. I can't even see straight. And I'm going to guess, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing you're going to now give me a sleeping pill. She goes, that's right. I said, okay, how about we do this? How about we take me off of the antibiotics and the steroid and we forget about the sleeping pill? And there was a moment of silence. And she goes, let me ask the doctor. I got a call back in about an hour. The doctor says you can go off of everything. Okay. Most people are not me. And when I say that, most people are not an asshole. I'm what you would refer to as an asshole. I don't just take things at face value. I want to know why I'm taking it. You gave me a drug to counteract a drug that I know I didn't need because I didn't need it last time. And now that drug caused a different problem. So you're giving me another drug to counteract that drug. And when I called you back again, you're not going to take me off. You're going to put me on yet another drug. And I'm guessing if they start giving you sleeping pills, you're going to probably get constipation. You know what that gives you, Eric? Gives you another drug.
Well,
you see how it works?
And I've had a similar situation where they thought I had a bladder infection. They put me on a drug and I was on the couch, fever. I couldn't even get up.
Right.
With this antibiotic. And then, so I contacted them and they wanted me to get blood work. And so I just ended up stopped taking it. And lo and behold, it went away and I recovered on my own. So it's it's frustrating.
So
it's simple care.
If you need a good doctor, and I'll say it on the air so other people can find these guys. Where do you live, Eric?
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay. So I don't think Dr. Brett Shear can help you. He only operates out of California. But I think Dr. Tro Kalajian.
Yes, I've heard him talk.
Yeah.
You've talked to him before.
Yeah. Call up Tro's people and tell them I sent you. It won't get you a discount, but what it will get you is maybe moved up the list a little bit.
Okay.
Find out if you have small, dense particles, if you're at risk for anything. If you're 50 years old and you still got great blood flow, I'm going to go ahead and guess you don't have a problem. That's a guess. I'm not a doctor.
Sure.
Right? But why not sleep easy and know for sure? Because a cholesterol of 300 does not tell me a damn thing. Do you know what your triglycerides are?
Yeah, they're a little high. I'd have to look to see exactly, but
when you say a little high, are we talking, are you in the 100, like 100 and something, or we're 65? What do you call high? I can't hear you, Eric.
I was going to look up.
Oh, wait, now you've muted. There you go. Okay.
I was jumping in to look at my chart.
in my labs. I can do that real quick here.
Yeah. If you can figure that. Well, look, folks, while Eric is looking that up, I'll tell you about Villa Capelli olive oil. Villa Capelli, the best olive oil on the planet. Now, I'm telling you guys that because they pay me. But guess what? I used to say that long before they paid me. One dime. Talked about them for a whole year and never got paid. That's how much I believe in Villa Capelli. Listen, there are a lot of other good olive oils out there. I just can't go vet all of them. And besides, don't you want the good tasting stuff? The stuff that's got an actual flavor? Villa Capelli. Let them know we sent you. Put in promo code Vinnie, VINNIE. You get 10% off when you do that. No, don't put a wimpy Y on there. VINNIE, and you'll get 10% off every single time at Villa Capelli. Let them know we sent you. We're talking to Eric Heights. And Eric, did you find that number?
Yeah, actually, I said a little high, but it's actually low. In December, I was around 65 milligrams, and then in July, I went up to 90.
Yeah, all right. Anything below 100 is good.
Yeah.
I like to brag and let you know that I'm always around 40.
Oh.
Yeah. You know, I'm just bragging. No big whoop. But anything 50, 60, 70, up to about 90. 90 is about the high. That means you're probably enjoying a little too much football food. Maybe a glass of wine here and there, something like this.
Well, we did do a little bourbon on my birthday.
In bourbon, a little bit, but a little this, a little that. Before you know it, you're at 90. Right. And that's a bigger indication. The ratio between LDL, HDL, and triglycerides is the ratio you want to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to talk about functional medicine, that's where Trocalasian is going to look at.
Got it.
He's good at that stuff. Right. He doesn't do sick care. He does health care. He's going to figure out how to make you healthy. And this is not an ad for him. I don't get it. Doctors cannot pay me to do this. That's against the law. I don't know if people don't know that, but doctors cannot advertise like that. Right. There's some kind of HIPAA thing or something. I don't know what it is. Because one of them we talked about, and I went, I think that's illegal. I won't tell you which one, but yeah, that's what you want to do.
Great.
Right. Let's find out if there's a problem. My guess is if you have good blood flow at 50, ain't no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you weigh now? We know you're still 6'2", but where's your weight now?
195.
195. Wow. Well, that's great. Are you happy at 195, or are you looking maybe to drop another 5 or so? Or where are you?
The lowest I've been was 188, and I have that in my head. And it's I think the main reason is a lot of my weight I carry around my waist. And so there's a little bit there that I'd love to trim off. Just to feel that much more comfortable.
Yeah, and by the way, that's just really paying attention to your diet. Yeah, it's no different than the 500-pound guy, man or woman, who's trying to lose, 300 pounds.
Right.
It's actually, it's more difficult because you're right. You're cutting it close to the quick now, right? You have that little middle-aged spread thing, and some people will tell you, "Oh, you can't get it to go away." Well, yes, you can. Right. I know you can. I'm 63, and I don't have it. I should have had it a long time ago. Now, I'm an idiot. I mean, I just spend all my time every day doing one thing, proving that I could keep looking the same way. Skin gets looser and all that kind of stuff. There's nothing you can do about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Age catches up with all of us. But I made a promise at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival back in 1984 or 5. I couldn't have been more than 23, to my friend, Renee Kutcher. And she goes, yeah, when you hit 30, you're going to get that middle-aged spread. 30, she said. 30, but 35 she goes, oh, you're all tight right now. Wait till you get to 30 or 35. Look at my husband, right? And I went, you got a deal, baby. You got a deal. And here I am. I went right past 35, went right past 45, skipped right past 50. You can do it. Mm-hmm. It's never too late, right?
For sure. No, and that's definitely testimonial to what you share, and that it's believing in yourself and being disciplined enough to reach those goals that you set for yourself. And whenever I mention this to like friends and family, I don't really say diet anymore. I say this is just a way of eating, and this is the best thing for you. And just seeing the results, and also having a great support system in my wife. I mean, she looks wonderful and is doing wonderful on the same way of eating. And so we know if we partake a little bit, we're going to wake up in the morning and feel a little rough. But as long as we stick to our guns, and it's the same. Even with holding a budget at home, we're trying to teach our kids about the same way of eating too. And I don't know if you recall, I had an X that I sent about asking you about athletes and them building muscle, because they kept telling my son just to load up on a bunch of sugar.
Oh yeah, and I remember that tweet. It wasn't that long ago. It was pretty recent.
Beginning of the season.
Yeah, and I'll say the same thing here for the rest of the audience that's not on X. Carbohydrates will do nothing for building muscles. Now, I could get some boneheads in here, and they would not be wrong. Well, you release more insulin, and insulin will do A, B, C, and D, and that's going to help you build muscle quicker. Not really, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of, maybe. Yeah. Will you have more energy if you keep dousing sugar in your body throughout the whole workout? I think I also told you, small amount of creatine. Did we talk about that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Small amount of creatine on top of the creatine you get from meat and from what your body makes. And when I say small amount, people go, how much? 5 grams. I just gave it to you, folks. 5 grams a day. I don't care if you're a menopausal woman, which is good for you, or you're Eric's son playing ball. Right?
Yeah.
Take a little creatine. Boom. Done. And find one of the products that has Creapure in it. Okay. Or Crea Vitalis, which is the same stuff. It's made by the same company. Right? Yeah, just a little bit of that. Good for your health. And stay away from the sugar. I mean, look, Dr. Tim Noakes, he's done more studies than anyone else in the world. He would have said to you 20 years ago, sugar, sugar, sugar. You got to have it. And then he started watching guys like me and a few other guys. He talked to my friend Gary Taubes and a few other people. And he was like, he thought, because he was a runner his whole life, he goes, no matter how much I've run, decade over decade, I gained 10 pounds. Right. Mm-hmm. And he got the love handles, the muffin top, the whole thing. He's like, and I'm a runner. Of course it's the carbs. And he started cutting them out. And then he started doing studies on, athletes, collegiate athletes over in South Africa, and found out, oh, wait, you can do this without sugar. Not only can you do it, you're a better athlete for it. Right. And I do recommend sugar to people sometimes. Like if you're playing basketball or something like that, you need a trickle of sugar during the game because you're running through your blood glycogen. Right. Mm-hmm. If you're a boxer or a kickboxer or that kind of sport, you're going to have to take sugar during it because you're burning through it. You're getting a deficit of sugar. But those are different things. Most people aren't those kind of people. People that do CrossFit, not so much when they're training, but in the middle of competition, right? They're burning through their blood glycogen. They're going to have to equalize it. But you don't have to equalize it with a big, birthday cake of sugar. A small amount of sugar gets you right back where you need.
Right.
Say the word, Vinny. Say the word. It's your favorite fitness word. Bolus. Bolus of sugar.
Yeah, you need a bolus of sugar. Douchebag. Swear to God.
Well, we've added creatine to our daily. I'll throw it in just a little bit of water, mix it up, and have it. We've added coconut oil to our coffee.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the heavy cream, so I do my best to try to stick to the Vinnie touch of color, in my coffee, just to make sure it doesn't get too white. So.
Well, I get real Italian about my coffee. I'll have cream in the morning, and then after that, it's all just black coffee.
Yeah.
Mostly espresso on my beautiful espresso machine, which is right behind me. Mm-hmm. My pride and joy is what we call it.
Nice.
Yeah.
great.
The vice president of my company right behind me. That's how we keep it going. Right there.
Oh, wow.
Any other questions before I let you go, Eric?
I think that was the biggest one, Vinny, just because of the recent, evolution of things and, getting a little closer to my health. And so I appreciate the feedback and definitely will reach out further to see.
And keep me posted on what Tro, look, it's HIPAA laws and everything. But if you want to let me know at some point,
Sure,
be more than happy.
will do.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
All right.
It's great talking to you, and give my best to your wife. I'm glad you guys are both doing it.
Well, thanks for the time, Vinny. Appreciate it.
Welcome. Chris, we have Scott in the wings. Let's see if he's ready to come up.
Scott, give us that thumbs up in the camera if you're ready to come on in. There he is. Scott.
Hey, Scott.
Hey there. Scott. Hey there. And first of all, thanks a lot, Vinny.
For what? What did I do?
Well, you were on Mike Rowe about, 2020.
Yeah, give or take. Yeah.
2019, someplace in there. And I heard about NSNG for the first time then. At that time, I was 325 pounds heavier.
Heavier than you are right now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've lost 325 pounds.
Wow.
And and I was listening to you talk to Miranda, and it was really interesting because you were talking about you didn't really get on board with the no sugar until you had cancer.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because I never got on board. I mean, I was a health teacher. I taught health. I did all the things I was supposed to do. I rode a stationary bike, and I rode in 1 year around the equator of the Earth, the equivalent, and I'd lose the weight and then it would come back. And it wasn't until I was told I had weeks to months to live that something clicked. And why is that with people? Why do we have to have 1 foot in the grave before we turn it around?
Okay, I'm gonna give you an answer, but Chris, put him in the background. There you go, Chris. Did you turn his mic off or did he?
Yeah, I muted him just because we're getting a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, we're getting some snapback. So whenever he's talking, we'll bring him back. I'm glad you picked up on him before me. Okay, great question, Scott. So my secret with all of my clients for years, even before Hollywood, back in New Orleans, that's where I started my career in a city where people eat. Right. I learned in college that the way you lose weight is by cutting out carbohydrates. My great grandmother, who had very little education, English was a second language, she was from Italy. She knew that if you ate too much pasta and bread, I remember her telling me and my brothers when we were young, she would go, "Oh, panza." Panza means gut. You got a panza. What's the panza? No bread for you, right? They would just do that, right? They knew that too much carbohydrates made you fat. That's a fact, right? So I knew when I started my business, I knew what I was doing because I had a degree in exercise physiology and nutrition, and I knew what the truth was. I also was in a gym from the time I was 8 years old. And I used to watch the bodybuilders right before competition. They ate carbs around the clock. And they were puffy. They were muscular, but puffy. And then they would do this for like weeks and weeks and weeks, eat nothing but protein, right? They wouldn't even eat fat. They would eat protein. They were miserable. They were miserable during the workouts, but they would rip up in no time. They would just rip up. So I understood what carbohydrates did to the body. And I was able to have an incredible business, especially when I got to Hollywood, when I became known as the quote unquote quick weight loss guy, right? I knew how to get weight off of people. I never wanted to tell my secrets. I didn't want, hack trainers to start figuring out my secrets. But I was able to get away with it because I was riding, like I said, I was riding a bike 17,000 miles a year. The average person you go lease a car, they'll say you could drive at 10,000 miles a year, right? That's about what people put on a car, right? Can you imagine 17,000 miles on a bicycle? That's a lot of energy being expended, and I don't have the propensity to get fat. So I was able to get away with it. But after cancer, I started looking at everything. And one of the things my doctor told me, it was Dr. Miller. She said, at the end of cancer, when I was all cleaned up, I was in remission. I said, Doc, everybody in Hollywood's telling me I need to, have, wheatgrass every day, or I got a juice. I need to be on a vegan diet. Is any of this true to keep this cancer at bay? And she, Dr. Miller knew who I was because one of my fancy clients got me to her. And she goes, "You're the no sugars, no grains guy, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "Yeah, do that." And this is in 07. Nobody was talking about sugar and cancer in 07. But the people studying cancer, like Dr. Miller, knew that was the next thing. They were looking at cancer cells and trying to figure out what's causing cancer cells to grow. They're getting oxygen from somewhere. It's a closed cell. And they knew that it wasn't coming through the alveoli, through the lungs. The oxygen had to come from somewhere else. And when you look at a carbohydrate, it's carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. That's what was feeding cancer. That's what they figured out. And I'm proof in the pudding, right? I was supposed to go back on chemo once every 5 years. I went 17 years. 17 years. Right? But they won't tell you that. They don't tell people to do that. Look at what you did. You were listening to Mike Rose. Funny, I was just texting with Chuck last night, back and forth. Chuck and I have become pals. I don't know how, but I love Chuck. Mike's a good guy too. 300 pounds, man. Come on. How much did you weigh?
I was 550 pounds. And let me also put my wife in the picture. She's also come on board. She's lost 120. So 445 between us. And one of my sons has lost 90. And it actually put him into a better career because he was able to make the fitness for his career. And it's basically no sugar, no grain. I had to do, in order to lose the weight, I had to do a lot of fasting. And that was very effective. It drove my insulin down. I mean, Clark Kent low. And once the insulin was down, I was able to burn fat as opposed to burning off protein.
Wow.
And then I used to dream because I was so disabled at that point. I could not walk to get my mail and back without being completely winded. That was all I could do. And I literally would have dreams of walking in my neighborhood. Because I had this. Can you imagine if I could walk around the block? Simply couldn't do that. I had COPD, which has been completely resolved. Congestive heart failure, which is completely resolved. In fact, when my cardiologist, about 2 years ago now, a year and a half, he cried tears. He says, "You're the first patient I am graduating from my practice who did not leave in a box."
I'm about to cry tears here.
It was so powerful. So powerful. I also had been on SSRI antidepressants for almost 40 years. And along the way, I ended up, I noticed that I was also on an anti-anxiety meds. And I noticed that I hadn't been refilling my anti-anxiety meds. Those are on demand. And it's like, wow. And so then somebody suggested I read Chris Palmer's book, Brain Energy. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Chris, but he's
been on the show. Yeah.
Okay, metabolic psychiatry. And so from that, I decided a little over 2 years ago to de-prescribe myself for my antidepressants, SSRI antidepressants. That was really difficult. It took from July until October. It was as tough on my wife as it was me because it put me into places I didn't need to be, but I needed to get off of them. And I did. and I'm doing better now than I've done in 40 years. It's just miraculous though. But what blows my mind is that the blowback I get it, and on X or Twitter, you'll see the other people, they get blowback from family and friends who tell, and even our government is recommending that we eat all this grain and sugar, and I don't understand. I don't understand the blowback. I don't understand people's hesitancy to adopt it. But I'm very thankful that you're out there with your trumpet, as if it were. And also, we have another thing in common. I'm an avid model airplane pilot.
Really?
And I know that I saw one of your, something you had one time, and you had some model airplanes in the background, and then we exchanged a real quick message on X about that, just briefly.
I remember the message on X. I have, Chris, thank you. I have a plane. I went in for a friend. I was still living in California. Her mom had died. So her dad had died years earlier, and her mom had died. And one of these big auction houses were going to do an estate sale. And the old man, he had all of these guns in a safe. And we were having lunch. She was a good friend of me and Serena. And she goes, yeah, the estate people said they would take care of the guns too. And I went, oh, no, we're going to do private sale on those. Tell them that they don't get to auction off the guns because they always screw people over on those prices. So she goes, how do we know what they're worth? I went in with the gun Bible. It's like a telephone book thick full of, and she took me to the safe, or the couple of safes. And this guy had some really fancy rifles. There was a time in the 1940s, 1950s, right after the Great Depression, where a lot of Americans started going to Africa to do big game hunting. And they started making all these incredible rifles, these ornate, a lot of ornate work on the rifles and the whole thing. And he had a bunch of those. And some of them were owned by celebrities, John Wayne being one of them, right? I'm looking at these guns that are priceless because they were owned by celebrities. I even told her, I said, I some of these guns, we can't put in the book. It won't tell us, hey, if John Wayne owned it, you can add $1,000 to it or whatever. So I went through and priced all the guns for free because she was a friend. And when I was leaving the house, under a bunch of rubble, like they had a bunch of stuff that they were throwing away, I saw this old fuselage from a model airplane. And I stopped and I looked at it, and I pulled it out. And I said, what's this? She goes, yeah, my dad used to do model airplanes. And then I said, where are the wings? So we looked through a bunch of other stuff. I find the wings. The wingspan on that thing is about 6 feet long. It's a big plane. And we found a bunch of engines. The engines, one was brand new, one was all locked up. I got that working on my own because I'm good at those kind of mechanics. But I took the rest of it to a guy to restore it. And I said to him, I said, what will it take to restore this plane? He hemmed and hawed and said, let me get back to you. And I went back to the shop a couple of days later, and he said, it's going to take about $600 to rehab this thing, to get it back to, original value. And I said, I pointed to this beautiful plane that was hanging in this big giant aviation model store. I said, what if I bought that? What would that cost? He goes, oh, you can get that for about $400. I said, so it's going to cost more to redo this than to buy a whole new thing. And he goes, yeah. I said, good. Rehab the old one because I want to have that thing. And it hangs. I've never flown it because I never learned how to fly a plane yet.
Well, if you ever are in Central Washington, I'll put you on a buddy box, and then you can fly a plane so that you have a transmitter and I have a transmitter, and I can save you. In fact, I'll put you on my wife's plane because I can't let you crash that one.
Oh, good.
I couldn't go home then.
I had a guy here take me out and put me on a buddy box on a learner style plane. So I did that. And, but I didn't really know what I was doing. He took it up and then he handed it over to me and I was able to fly it around, move it around, work the ailerons and everything else and get it to bank. And he taught me a few things. And he said, all right, now it's got to come down. So he brought it down before it ran out of, he had a battery version that day. But I didn't learn anything. And the guy was kind of a stick in the mud. So I was like, I don't have the right guy here, you know? So yeah. I'll get to it at some point.
So that's, you know, but hobbies, I kind of bring up hobbies because I think hobbies are a really important part of a health journey as well. Hobbies and sleep, stress, you know, it's food is kind of that's your big stick.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing, you know, but there's a lot of others. And I think hobbies is one of those things that people need to have time to explore their mind. And for some people, just the gym is their hobby, and that's their people.
Yeah. And look, everything can be a hobby. Like my wife, you know, like you probably know this. About 2 or 3 years ago, I built a kayak, and you know, I couldn't have done it without Joey Schott. Right, this guy was this master builder, and just I learned so much from that guy. My wife needed something, you know, constructed around the house the other day out of wood. I was able to go right into my garage, zip, 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 cut it, you know, zip, zip, cut, you know, boom, you know, got her exactly what she needed. I learned how to work with wood because of Joey Schott teaching me how to build a kayak. And this year, the hobby is I'm putting together a HO scale train, right? And I started in January and here we are 7 months down the road. I still haven't dealt with a train yet, right? I've been building track and doing all of the stuff. We're going to do videos of it at some point when I'm done and you'll see what we have here. But I've been getting this professional guy to come in once a week and we spend about 4 or 5 hours once a week just working on this hobby. And my wife says, she goes, well, when you're done, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with this? I said, look at it. It's a piece of art. We have pictures hanging on the wall. We're not like taking that and rubbing it on our genitals or anything. I mean, it's just a picture on the wall, right? So I have this train, right? And kids come over. I can go, hey, come see the train. You know, adults come over and they, oh my God. I had the guy come to do my chimneys. You know, they got to sweep the chimneys every summer. The guy couldn't get enough of it. He goes, oh my God, HO scale, look at that. My dad, you know, 4 or 5 people have been in this basement and they become kids. You know, the hobby matters more than people would think. I never thought that. My work was always my hobby. Getting people to lose hundreds of pounds, that was my hobby. That's still something I do, but I'm doing this stuff too. Right? Chris, we can't.
Yeah, there we go. So, you know, the other thing I was mentioning is the blowback, and I just don't understand the blowback. I've had just tremendous blowback from family and, you know, in different places, even to the point of, I have one of my children had Adult Protective Services try to intervene in our diet change.
You're kidding.
And yeah, we had to go through a 3-month investigation. And of course, here now there's an amusing end to that story. So I had actually finished my first walking marathon, and I was coming down my street, and I saw this car parked in front of my house. My starting and ending point was at my house for this walking marathon, and I'm like, "What is that?" And so I get there, and I've been walking now for about 6 hours because I'm not quick. And there are these 2 investigators from DSHS. Department of Health Services, and their Adult Protective Services, and they wanted to give me a cognitive assessment right then and there. And I wanted
based on what? What did your kid think was wrong with you?
That we had, I had self-abuse, which I always thought meant something altogether different. Cognitive decline, and yeah. My wife was cognitively declined, and anyway, and they wanted to intervene. So once it was all said and done, I mean, we had, well, of course, nobody would admit to actually having. They wouldn't tell us, of course, who had done it, and it was a son who lived out of state, and he didn't. He admitted it months later that it was. We just lost.
Oh, Chris, we lost Scott. This is the most interesting story.
So
yeah, sounds like we have his audio.
All right. So
all right, hang on a second.
Yeah, we can't lose Scott. This is, I've heard a lot of crazy shit on this podcast, but I see Miranda in the background going, "Get this guy back. We need."
There we go. I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. So Scott.
Okay. So after this was all said and done, both of the investigators started intermittent fasting for themselves, which I thought was kind of amusing.
So when you were 550 pounds, your kid didn't care about that.
That's the weird thing, and I'm muted again.
No, you're not.
I'm not. Okay. Yeah, and that's the weird thing. You know, no, I could eat a bag of Oreos. I could do that was fine, but when we turned our health around, and I mean it was obviously really huge difference. They considered it extreme, and you know it was extreme. I would fast. My first fasts were for 36 hours, and then we quit eating as much sugar and grains, and over time we got better. I was walking 6 miles a day at that point, and that was all considered to be extreme. And my wife was walking with me, and they thought that I was. Oh yeah, they said that I was abusing her, elder abuse, because I was making her walk with me. Now. No, nobody was making her walk. And as you can imagine, a lot of family dynamics have fallen aside because of that, which is unfortunate.
Man, I am sorry to hear that. But, think of, folks, hear what Scott is saying here today. It's okay if you're eating yourself into an early grave. But if you decide to fix that, and I'm not, Scott, you need to explain this to me. When health services came, I want to know how much weight you had lost at that point. I want to know if you were off any medications at that point, if your A1Cs were lower, if your triglycerides were lower at that point. I want to know if there was any metrics and why these people decided after they met you that they needed to investigate you further than the 5 minutes that they met you after your walk. Please explain.
So I had lost, at that point, I'd probably lost in excess of 200 pounds at least. Now, another thing.
Not again.
Maybe 6 months. Probably a year and a half. And then she joined me because my aspiration at one point, it might be more than a year. But anyway, my aspiration was to go into a Spokane has a walk called the Bloomsday. It's 12K. And so as I started to do the walking, I aspired to do Bloomsday. And when I did it, I thought, okay, I reached my goal. I'm done. I'm not going to walk anymore. And she said, oh, yes, you are. And so she said, I'll start walking with you. Okay, so she started walking with me. Well, then she had an LAD myocardial infarction, the widowmaker heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
And they blamed her. They blamed me making her walk for causing the heart attack. Nothing to do with it. I mean, heart atherosclerosis comes over years and years. She was diabetic, very diabetic. In fact, speaking of crazy numbers, at that point, she was on 120 units of insulin a day, and she had an A1C of 9.5.
Wow.
Today, she has no insulin, and she had her A1C tested today, and it was 6.0. No meds, 6.0, just by changing her diet.
She's almost out of the woods. I mean, 5.6 would be out of the woods. But Scott, go back and explain to me. All right, so I get it. Your wife has a heart attack. Your kids overreact, or one of your kids overreact. Why couldn't they come and see you were 200 pounds down? Your wife was happy with what you guys were doing, why wouldn't they just go, okay, have a good day?
That's a really great question, and I don't have a great answer, but I suspect it's because they're both morbidly obese. And
Your
I
kids
was
or all
changing.
the
I taught them how to eat, I guess, and they have my genes. And I don't know if it was because we were changing who we were. Now there was two boys, and one of them admitted it, one of them never did. I don't know, but they live about 800 miles away from me.
Mm-hmm.
The son who lives only an hour away, he's the one that lost the weight also, and he's doing great. The son that lived close to me, he had no concern. None of my friends had concern. Nobody at the church had concern. Nobody who saw me had concern. Their concerns were all, I think, kind of imagined. And I don't, because they won't even talk to me at all at this point, because they think that I'm mentally unstable because of this diet. I mean, it's not like I've gone out and done and done a lot of crazy shit. Okay. I haven't, my change has been, I stopped taking a lot of meds. Actually, I stopped taking everything except for some endocrine meds. All the meds, all the antidepressants are gone. All that's all gone. I don't need any of that. And I'm not wacko. So yeah, I really wish I had an answer to that question. Why would they do that? But I think it's imagined. And in our society today, it seems like people have to go to extremes of emotions. We don't have a middle ground anymore. They didn't, it's hard to understand. But I'm not alone. I've seen a lot of people in the Twitter space who talk about friends they've had for life who suddenly would, off them, canceled them, whatever you want to call it, ghosted them. So mine is an extreme example when it's family, but people don't get it, and they're not willing to try because it challenges their diets have almost become a religion.
Well, it's kind of like people who are alcoholics, right? Whenever you stop alcohol, you have to find new friends, right? So, and when it's family, whenever you're the identified patient, which you and your wife became the identified patients, then you were holding the mirror up. And look what happened. One of your sons said, hey, you know what? Give me some of that. And another one said, screw that. I'm going to call the authorities. And, I've heard a lot of stories. I hear this kind of thing. People break up, over this. The wife decides to lose weight. The husband goes, oh, you must be cheating on me. No, she just wanted to get healthy. That's all. Doesn't mean she's out there cheating just because she wanted to lose weight. And I've heard it vice versa. I thought I've heard everything on the show, but I've never heard kids calling protective services on their parents. Scott, we got to move along here, but that's one of the most amazing stories I think I've ever heard on this podcast ever. Would you please come back at some point and give us an update on the whole thing?
Certainly, absolutely. And I follow you on X, and yeah, I definitely will.
Man, I'm pulling for you, your wife, and all of your kids. I hope the son that did this, I hope that you can mend your relationship. Time usually mends those kind of wounds. So good luck to you and your wife on that. I hope that he sees it the right way. I really do. And hopefully he can do what his brother's doing and he can get healthy too. And let him know I'm always here to help if he wants to come. I'm here. I'll give him a free PDF.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And, interestingly enough, he's also cut off relationships with his brother who's lost the weight. The two brothers that are heavy and don't, but they, they talk to one another. They don't talk to the third one. It's a sad situation. I really appreciate, and I hope time will heal. absolutely no communication between us now, but hopefully, I'm very hopeful that for the future. And you know, but I appreciate what you're doing to help people, and hopefully that will filter back to them from some back channel, and they'll be able to have that moment like you had with your cancer, like I had when they told me I had weeks to months to live, when I said, boy, we've got to turn this around.
Yeah.
And I did it the right way this time. I mean, I always knew I was fat. I always knew I was heavy, but you know, this time I got the right tools, and that was because of you being out there, promoting what you learned from your grandma, and apparently
my great grandmother from the old country.
All right.
Well,
Well,
Scott,
thank you very much.
We're going to take a quick break here, and then Scott, hang in there. I want you to hear the story I'm going to tell right after this quick break. Folks, Villa Capelli olive oil is the best olive oil on the planet. Villa Capelli. Don't mess around. Go get it. As a matter of fact, they do not sell any of the stuff until it's ready, and it all comes right from Puglia, Italy. That's right. The good stuff. Villa Capelli. You want Villa Capelli, go right now to villacapelli.com. When you get to checkout, put in promo code Vinnie, VINNIE. You get what? Oh, nothing. Just 10% off every time. If you spend more than $125 after the discount, you will also get free shipping over at villacapelli.com. Let them know we sent you. VINNIE, no wimpy Y. Put an IE on there and you'll get 10% off at villacapelli.com every single time. Chris, we have another person in the wings, right?
It looks like we have Kathy with us. Kathy, if you can turn your camera or your mic on to let us know that you're still there.
Yeah, because how many? We have one more in the wings or two more? What do we have?
She said she's here with us. So, Kathy, if you can unmute that microphone and we can bring you on in.
I don't see Kathy on my thing here, so I don't know where she is. Well, you're trying to figure out Kathy.
She said she doesn't have any more questions for us. She's just hanging out. Oh. That's okay, too.
All right. Well, Kathy, I got this story for you, Chris. You'll enjoy this. And Scott just reminded me of this. There was a guy years ago. He was literally wider than he was tall. The man was he was morbidly obese. And his health, he was fairly young. His health kept going downhill more and more. I'm going to call him Robert because that was his name. He talks about it online. Robert Stanton is the guy's name. Still is. And his doctor had finally, literally, can you imagine a doctor? He went to his doctor and he goes, Doc, look, I can't stop eating. I can't stop doing any of this. I just, and the doctor said, well, if you're not going to stop eating and you're not going to stop living like this, you might as well just go make peace with all of your friends and family because you won't be around very much longer. Your health is failing. So Robert goes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take all my money. I'm going to travel. He went to Ireland, I think, somewhere else. He had friends and family and this and that and the whole thing. And he said, yeah, I'm just going to spend all my money because I'm going to be dead in 5 minutes anyway. So he went about doing that. And one day he heard me on the Adam Carolla show. And it was one of the first, it was around 2015, first time I was on Adam Carolla. I think I was on Adam and Drew. And they're saying, wait, you can eat bacon? You can eat eggs? I can eat all the bacon I want, eggs, and all this kind of stuff. Well, Robert goes, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to be dead anyway. I'm just going to eat bacon and eggs every day. I'm going to do what this guy's saying. I'm going to cut out grains. I'm going to cut out sugar, the way Miranda said she was cutting out sugar and the whole thing. Cold turkey on anything carbs. He just started eating meat, bacon, eggs. I don't think he was a drinker, but I think whatever he was drinking, he stopped drinking. And he started losing weight immediately. His blood pressure started to come in line. His A1C started going down. Every one of the markers, his fatty liver disease, he started healing up. Every problem he had started changing. Right? Next thing you know, the guy's healthy. And he's calling into my show and everything else. I think he lost He wasn't that tall, but he lost north of 200 pounds, something like that, and got his life back. The only problem is he's now broke because he spent all of his money because he thought he was dying. And that's, and by the way, he ended up becoming a comedian and started doing comedy and everything else and started enjoying his life and started doing everything he wanted to do before that he couldn't do before that he can now do. Right. And he figured out how to go back to work and how to make more money and but yeah, the guy literally decided to spend all of his money because he knew he was going to die. And then he ended up living by trying something really radical. Right? Something so radical that Scott's kids turned the authorities on to Scott, which is nuts. It's crazy, right?
That's insanity. And you said it when he was telling the story. You said, I've been around the block a few times. I've heard pretty much every story. That's a new one.
Yeah. 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 When people are calling child services on their parents. Can you imagine?
Did you know it's elder abuse to walk? I didn't.
The guy just walked a marathon and he's got authorities waiting at the door going, sir, what are you doing? See, that's how far we've come. We should have authorities out there making people exercise. No, we got authorities out there checking on people because they're exercising. What part of this, am I in bizarro world? Is this the Twilight Zone? Where in the F am I? Because I'm not getting this anymore. I'm not understanding where we are. When people get upset with RFKJ because he's out there telling people, eat healthier, people go, oh, can you believe that guy's telling us to do that? That guy's telling us to get off medications. That guy's telling us to eat healthy. That guy is going to take cereal off of the recommended what we should be eating for breakfast. Can you believe that lunatic? Well, luckily we have a lunatic who's willing to do that. Right? And look, I don't get political. From what I understand, RFK Jr. is a Democrat, but the Democrats hate him because he's part of the Trump deal. My head spins when I even try to think about politics. That's how crazy it is to me. That's why I don't talk about politics, because it's all just effing bizarre to me, right? You guys could have had RFK Jr. running for the Democrats, but you decided not to. The guy wanted his message out there and went with who he thought might be the winner, and he chose correctly, turns out, right? The guy chose the right guy. Hooked his train his train car to the right train. Boom. Now we have somebody giving us good information. But people hate him because they call him a nut and an anti-vaxxer and everything else. I don't care. I don't care about any of that. If you start getting us to not eat cereal for breakfast in schools, we saw Ty was on here last week on the first show. Ty was telling us, oh my God, they're calling string cheese a grain and everything else on the plate is sugar at the school. He works at the school in Hawaii. Remember that guy, Chris? Ty? Remember him? Okay. That's what's going on. My friend Gina Grad writes to me and says, can you believe what they want kids to eat in Beverly Hills? That's where our kid goes to school. Beverly effing Hills. Ever hear of the place? 90210. That's the zip code. They did shows about it. Ever hear of it?
That's the place Eddie Murphy went in that Beverly Hills Cop, I think is what it's called.
That's correct. Beverly Hills. It was called Beverly Hills Cop. I mean, they went to Beverly Hills. All right. That's what you're getting in Beverly Hills. Probably some of the most expensive real estate on the planet. That's what's going on. You think kids in Milwaukee has a chance? You think kids in Alabama have a chance? Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, you think they got a chance?
No, because if you let them do anything, and circles right back to Scott. And I think you and I might have talked about this on a Wednesday show. I thought we hit peak stupidity when someone called CPS on the mom who let her kid walk to baseball practice or whatever it was a couple months ago, right? Like 6 blocks in a gated community.
Yeah.
So God forbid you let them do a little bit of exercise and get outside, but no.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this during that episode too. We grew up at a time when the news had a thing that says, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? I swear to God, in the summertime, we didn't leave the house in the morning. We were kicked out of the house in the morning. In that Louisiana heat, it's like, and you had to remember, okay, I think Chumpy and the boys said we were going to play some baseball. I better bring my gloves. Beezy and the gang said, "Hey, we're gonna throw the football around. Let me bring my football." And I think we're going to play basketball at some point. We would all leave the house with different balls and bats and gloves. And I know Moose doesn't have a bat. I better bring a bat, right? You would walk out of the house. It looked like you had just robbed Dick's Sporting Goods. Just to leave the house when I was a kid. Because the one thing you weren't doing is getting back in that house. That's right. It was 95, 100 degrees, all the humidity in the world. But guess what? We all learned how to play in it. We all loved it. No one thought it was weird. But now you let your kid walk down the street and they're calling Child Protective Services. You let your parents lose 200 pounds and walk a marathon and your kids are calling people on you. Stop it. Stop all of it. It's nuts. Are we done here, Chris? I'm about to I'm about to lose my mind.
I think before we watch Vinnie descend completely into chaos, we can call that a show.
All right, folks, purevitaminclub.com. Purevitaminclub.com. Yeah. You want this stuff. Why? Because it's good for you. If you take nothing else, you need the ultra salt. And you need the magnesium. You probably need the D3. I'm not telling you need it. Go get some blood work done and then come to purevitaminclub.com. You'll see what I'm talking about. Everyone in America needs more magnesium. Everyone goes, I take calcium for my bones. Guess what? You get enough calcium. The magnesium and the D3 helps push that calcium into the bones. That's how that works. It's called synergy, Chris. Synergy. PureVitaminClub.com. Go to PureVitaminClub.com, get everything you need. And while you're on the site, you want to get some coffee, PureCoffeeClub.com. On the same website. You see what I did there? I took over and I made things easier for everybody. You get your coffee, you get your vitamins, all in one place. Chris, by the way, did you see the email from Bill and Bill's kid with the coffee?
Yep, he's already taken care of.
Thank you. See, whenever we have a problem, we take care of it right away over at Pure Vitamin Club / PureCoffeeClub.com. And if you haven't tried my coffee, go try it right now. If you don't try anything else, try the Athletic. See, it's the one right over my head, right there. Where is it? Right there. Yeah, Athletic Blend. Go get it. PureCoffeeClub.com, PureVitaminClub.com. Rate and review this podcast. Rate it and review it. What else do I have to tell them, Chris? That's it?
I think that's it.
All right. On behalf of Chris Shaffer, my name is Vinnie Tortorich. Put life into living and do it with enthusiasm.